She gotta go, oh, you better go now. Go now, go now, go now. Before you see me cry.
Well, good day and welcome to the channel. I thought it would be nice to reflect upon the sad passing of one of my favourite artists, particularly in my formative years in the 70s, growing up. The passing of Denny Laine, sadly yesterday. Denny was a huge part of two of the biggest British bands of all time, particularly, of course, Wings, but he was also in at the founding of the original incarnation of the Moody Blues, and had also done a number of other interesting pieces of work over the year with various combinations. So, I mean, just looking at Denny's place in the pantheon of beat boom artists, he was there at the start, really, in the early 60s on the Birmingham scene. So a very important artist in British rock history.
I'm gonna love you in the morning, baby. And I'm gonna love you till the night. And I won't stop loving you, baby. 'Cause everything's alright. Can nobody love you, baby, like I'm loving you right now?
So born Brian Hines, adopted the musician's stage name, as many people did, of Denny Laine. Born, or raised anyway, in the Birmingham area. A Brummie lad, and a big part of that beat boom scene in Birmingham in the early 60s. First of all with Denny Laine and the Diplomats, which included Bev Bevan, future Move and ELO member. And then in 1965, or 64, sorry, joining the Moody Blues, the first classic lineup of that band. I believe only Mike Pinder is still left with us from that lineup from back in those days. So, you know, Ray Thomas, Mike Pinder. And Denny had an immediate impact with the band by singing the lead vocal on their huge international hit, the Bessie Banks cover Go Now, which he also reprised versions of later with Wings and so on, but massive international hit with Go Now. So a major part of that British beat boom in the early 60s. And the Moody's with Laine did record many more tracks. I think he quit round about later in 1966. Of course, he was replaced by Justin Hayward and John Lodge. The Moody's became a very different musical outfit. No less good, of course, but so he was they had a number of great tracks, which I'm playing clips of throughout this video. So it's hard to understand these days. You know, it's a track that Go Now, that cover of Go Now, is played so very, very often, and we forget just how good a record it is sometimes, I think, and how important it was as an international hit for a British band. But after leaving the Moody Blues, Denny went on to do a number of very interesting things. One was forming this an outfit called the Electric String Band, who I guess in another timeline, he could have been a member of ELO, because the Electric String Band with Trevor Burton as well in it, who also he formed the band Balls with. The Trevor Burton, of course, went on to be in The Move, experimenting with strings at that time, something that The Move and then ELO afterwards went on to do with a ton of success. So Denny was certainly possibly in at the start of that string-based rock band thing. Also work as a solo artist, and a recording of, which we play a clip of here, of Say You Don't Mind, a song he wrote in '67 and released as a solo artist, which later became a big hit for Colin Blunstone. But it's a beautiful track, always been one I've very much appreciated, and Denny Laine's version is excellent. Even though the Colin Blunstone is better known, I actually love Denny Laine's version.
I'm scared of you going. They don't mind, you don't mind. Let me up this time. Let me up this time.
Multi-instrumentalist, songwriter, singer, guitarist, man of many parts. As I say, Electric String Band, then he went on to form Balls with Burton, which briefly lived band. Also spent some time in Ginger Baker's Air Force. But then the big call came from Paul McCartney. In 1971, Denny joined forces with Paul McCartney and Linda to form Wings, and he remained with Wings right through to their eventual breakup in '81. Major part of that group. Co-wrote a lot of songs, wrote some on his own as well. And it's, looking back, the Wings were an enormous band in that mid-70s era, particularly when you look at the Wings Over America tour, which became the album, Triple Live album. Massive success that Denny had with Paul and Linda and the other members that were in and out of the band over the years. Playing guitar, writing, singing, playing bass, keyboards. Became a very close collaborative partner with Paul. Co-wrote, as well as all those Wings albums and hits from the earlier 70s, co-wrote the massive international hit Mull of Kintyre with Paul. So he's a man who's had his imprint on some major records over the years. And not to mention having a strong solo catalogue of his own outside of those bands. And Wings... I think it really benefited Paul having an artist like Denny in Wings, because he could turn his hand to so many things. If Paul needed to play piano, Denny played bass. Denny could play the piano. Denny could play great guitar. Denny could write. Denny could sing. Highly experienced artist in his own right. And at times it was down to the core trio. Band on the Run, for instance, internationally celebrated album. Rightly so. Denny was a huge part of just the three of them that made that. And I believe No Words, one of my favourite tracks in that album, was co-written by him. So, not necessarily a name that younger people today might recognise, but a hugely important part of the British rock scene over the years, the 60s and 70s onwards, left an incredible legacy. So yeah, for a guy like me, born and raised in the 60s and 70s, Wings are a huge band for me. I've got all the albums, all the singles. I've got the deluxe editions. The deluxe edition of Wings Over America is phenomenal. The box set, Band on the Run, all the editions of that. Denny was a great artist and a great writer, and so it's a sad day, but I appreciate everything he did and all these great records he left behind. Stuff like Again and Again and Again from Back to the Egg, a very underrated Wings album. Time to Hide, another fantastic Wings track that he wrote and sang on. His solo stuff, like the Lo-Fi Holly Days, made with Paul. Tribute to Buddy Holly, which is a vinyl album that I love, play a lot. Japanese Tears, solo album, and many other projects since the Wings era ended. So, what can I say? Sad day. R.I.P. Denny. Thank you for all the music. Condolences to your family. Thank you for leaving behind all those wonderful records, which I've been playing a lot in the last couple of days. May you rest in peace, sir. So thank you to everyone for listening to this short appreciation video. Really appreciate your support. Until next time, stay well and keep on rocking.